secret chord David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major left, the baffled king composing hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
So we're with Emilie Conway from the DADA Campaign. We're going to find out what it's all about and all the great work that has been done. So first of all, Emilie, you're very, very welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, John.
So you might start, if you will, just by telling us a bit about DADA, what it stands for and what it represents.
Okay, sure. Well, it sort of came about by accident in a way. I'm visually impaired, and then I also sort of have an autoimmune condition that flares up from time to time. And I suppose I was, trying to make everything work myself as an artist. But I guess it's like you're constantly losing ground against your disability and the flare-ups. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whatever ground you gain, it's sort of that building castles on sinking sand.
Okay, too.
And I suppose my response had been to just try to work harder and go for more things. And I've won a lot of awards and been on the face of very successful, but it doesn't mean I'm making a living.
I get you.
I think that's where the disability and the precarity of kind of self-employment and all that area of work comes in. So I suppose I saw you couldn't actually achieve your way out of the situation either. And I see that as being quite different to my non-disabled colleagues, who I could see, because their health and disability wasn't sort of undermining their achievements, they were able to gain a certain ground. Now, look, the arts and self-employment is difficult for everybody, and that's been well highlighted. But I guess that's where DADA came in, that I say the arts is well recognised as being precarious, and we heard a lot in the pandemic about its precarity, but I say add a disability to that and it's precarity squared, because the impact is exponential, so really it was during the pandemic that kind of pushed me to start speaking up about the challenges and about the inequities in the system that do not recognise in any way, shape or form the impact and cost of a disability while you're trying to build a career in such a precarious sort of environment. And I suppose, unlike, again, non-disabled people, I feel like our options are more limited. You can't, you can't just get a job in some other area. I think we as disabled people really have to work to our strengths, because that's the only place we can kind of hope to, compete with non-disabled people. So it's like we don't, and I would, a lot of my disabled artist colleagues would say the exact same thing, that it was kind of within their talent that they found, they had a place, so it's vital that we're, again, the campaign, we say supported, not thwarted, in our right to contribute and participate, So basically the pandemic kind of forced the issue for me, and I began speaking up, and literally by kind of speaking up about the difficulties, and I mean a lot of disabled artists weren't even entitled to PUP, because that was, would have been, they would have lost their disability allowance if they accepted PUP, so. Yeah, so it was literally there was none of the incentives or supports that were put out there. The disabled people couldn't avail of any of them, unless you'd already lost everything, all your support for your disability. Which again, as we say, transfers basically the full cost and impact then back onto the disabled person, which is just completely wrong. So speaking up really just gathered more artists and academics to me, and gave rise to our first, I had several meetings with, we started with, it was the Lord Mayor at the time, Hazel Chu, because she's a Green, and I thought that and she was quite sensitive to, like being sort of minority cultures and all that. So I thought that, she might understand the disability challenges, and that, that maybe she would let Catherine Martin know, and that Catherine Martin would listen to us. Now that was in September 2020, and it took until last September, 2 years,
Wow.
to actually meet with the Minister for Arts and Culture. So we were a long time trying to get to her, to let her know of our unique challenges in the field. But finally we did. But sorry to backtrack. So it gave rise to another artist, Isolde O'Brolacon Carmody, and I being invited to present to the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Disability Matters in October 21. So that was where we raised all the problems that we face and what would correct it, and then of course, like, as we know, I think it was later that year that the Indicon report came out, saying what the cause of disability was. So I suppose like one of the sort of systemic solutions that we're posing, and I know we're not alone in it, is to say that, like, the blind pension or disability allowance or whatever that basic support is, that should just be, the person should just get that, and then you should be able to earn whatever on top of that, and then if you exceed a certain amount, you simply pay tax. So it's just like that blind pension or disability allowance or whatever support, and a medical card would just be leveling the playing field. That's all that would do, and that would give you a hope of sort of maintaining your career and your life.
Yeah.
So it's like we were well responded to in that first Oireachtas committee meeting, and I sang. I suppose in doing this work, I'm conscious that we're artists, and so we kind of want to show who we are and what we do and what we would do more of to the politicians if they actually changed the legislation and regulations to support us, So that was October 21, and then last year was quite, we did a lot of it in out to Leinster House. We did a briefing that was, we've been, Gary Gannon and the Social Democrats have been very supportive, and they facilitated that we could have a briefing, which means you get to, present cross-party, cross-department, interdepartmentally. And there was 4 of us artists, a disabled writer, disabled comedian, disabled artist, and me. And, everyone presented something about their art, and then basically made the point that, like, look, we would do so much more. It would be safe for us to do so much more if we didn't lose support from our disabilities by achieving something,
I get you.
And then we also involved in pre-budget forums with social protection. I guess there's, and then this year, we were, we've made multiple submissions as well. Like in January, the Joint Oireachtas for Arts Culture put out a call looking for input on local community arts and old people and disability. So, we put in a submission saying, like, I guess, what are the barriers and how there needs to be change for there to be more actual real diversity and integration. And the NCAD Students' Union also are part of kind of DADA, so they contribute as well, which is great because, we need to change the lie of the land for, like, the children, like the children, the young ones that are coming up after us.
Yeah. Now, can I ask you just to go back a bit, because you put the kibosh in about 15 of my questions.
Sorry.
Are you the founder member? And
So you was just talking.
don't worry about it, it's okay.
Okay.
See, it all works out. It all works out, you see, with kindness and little creativity.
When I was in school, a lot like you, I didn't quite fit in. I couldn't play sports or see the board, but how I love to sing. It all works out, you see, it all works out. and me. You go so close, how can you see? It was a mystery, them and me. Oh, but it all works out, you see. It all works out. It all works out, you see. The unexpected so surprisingly. Well, music's taken me all around the world. I meet kind friends along the way. Some fit in and some stand out. Either way, it's all okay. 'Cause you know it all works out, you see. It all works out. It all works out, you see. With kindness and a little creativity.
Are you the founder member of DADA, and are there any other members?
There are, yeah. I mean, I guess I kind of drive it because I don't know, that's the kind of person I am. But there are, and like I think we have a mailing list of about 50 now.
Very good.
So, 50. Yeah, and that also includes, like, there's a girl, Evelyn Zink, who's a writer in Germany, and she's been trying to come over here to study, but of course she can't. She has the right to travel, but she can't travel because she can't get her support transferred to here.
Wow.
She like support. So our campaign is it's sort of reached beyond Ireland at this point, because what I've discovered is that it's not like the problems, the systemic kind of issues that we face here, where, you know, once you do something, you start to lose support for your disability. That seems to be quite Europe-wide, although we're particularly bad here.
Yes, I get you. I can understand that. So tell us a bit about your career to date. You're a singer.
Oh yeah, I'm a singer.
Of some note.
Pardon?
Of some note.
Oh, well, shucks. Of some note. Oh, that's a nice one. I like the pun. Of some note. Yeah, jazz, and then I guess I love literature and art, and disability and children. So I suppose that my kind of musical projects have fed into those areas. Let me see. I was in 2019 before the lockdown. I was involved in a collaborative project with some New York actors and dancers, which was exploring the connection between Rabindranath Tagore, a Bengali poet, and then and Yeats. So that was brilliant.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and it was lovely to go to New York and meet other artists as well. And it had actually arisen out of a project I did 2 years prior to that, which was looking at Maeve Brennan's work and how it kind of inspired me to sort of put together a performance exploring her work with music, and so music sort of inspired by her work, and then excerpts from her writing. And was invited to do that in the Washington Square Hotel in New York. So as a result of that, I met a director there who was working on the Yeats Tagore, and was invited back to do that in 2019 then with him. So, yourself, one thing leads to another.
Do you play a role in relation to young people, say disabled students at school, in the schools and so on? Does the organisation, is it involved with young people to any degree?
Oh yeah, well yes it is, and I'd love to do that more. I proposed a project to the ARC last year, because I suppose what I see, like a lot of this as well, is like, I mean, there's two parts. There's like what I can do in my work artistically to kind of open the space, and then there's what we can do from an activism, like, going to banging on the politicians' doors. Do you know what I mean? So that is sort of the activism point of view, and then creatively, I proposed a project to the ARC last year because I just like, well, how much disabled children come in here, and particularly, I guess, I would know about visual impairment. So the project was to work with Child Vision in like finding out, through music and through kind of art, to find out like how did they kind of how do they access a cultural space for kids, and how to make that like on their terms. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than sort of being bussed in and bussed out, and it's like, look at this and now leave. It's like I guess as I feel, because I mean, as a visually impaired kid myself, you need more time. You want to touch stuff. You want to sort of move. You want to find your own way through the space. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
And, so it was really led by, I suppose, my own experience, and it went brilliant. The kids were absolutely amazing, and I'd love to do more work. So what we did was I wrote some music, which the children learned. Then we brought them into the ARC, and I had devised it where there was some like little bits of description, but there was lots of like touching surfaces and movement. And I had a drummer who was like tapping rhythms on different surfaces around the ARC so that the children could get the sound again, because the sound is, it's like even the sound in different spaces. When you're visually impaired, you're more sensitive to that. So it was, and the children got to kind of play those rhythms back, and so it was just really, really interactive on their terms. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd love, that was a sort of, it grew into kind of a commission. But I guess the problem with all of this is that it needs to become part of like a cultural strategy. It can't be like just a once-off, and that's the problem. Say with that project, like there's no guarantees that will ever run again, and that's a shame, And I'm also passionate that all this work on access and disabled artists out there doing their thing, like that's disability led. And we are the best people to know how to bring each other into the space in a way that's actually like interesting, you know what I mean, and engaging and just really well informed. So I mean, but like they're literally like what I'm kind of another part of the work, I suppose, is talking to like our cultural institutions like the Arts Council, Creative Ireland, all these, and the Department of Arts. But it's getting like this into, every place has an EDI strategy, but it's, a lot of it is kind of like, with the best will in the world, we're at the box taking stage. It's in the main, and it needs to move from that to like a proper strategy where you have, like, my vision is that in each place, there will be, in the EDI or accessibility, it would have a disabled artist or a disabled creative person there who would lead it and who would like determine the projects and bring in more disabled people to carry them out, because then it's really, it's real world stuff then. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Tell us a bit about the campaign for human and cultural rights.
Well, I guess that's kind of what I'm talking about. So there's a couple of strands. There's a strand which is like working and writing submissions and going into Leinster House to politicians. So that's one strand. Then there's a strand like with media. So I don't know if you've seen, but we got a really good report last year by Alva Keneally,
Yes,
who's a social affairs correspondent in RTE, and I mean she did a really, really good report about the realities of things. And we've also had some good coverage in the Independent and the Times and the Examiner. So there's that kind of strand of up to date with what we're doing and where it's going. Then there's the work with, as I say, like say the arts, the Department of Arts Culture, and we had our first disabled, again, long sought, but it was brilliant, it happened, disabled artist stakeholders meeting in June. So that was actually bringing a group of artists from DADA, I think there was 5 or 6 of us, into the room with the Department of Arts Culture officials, senior officials, the Arts Council, Maritime Economy, and also that Safe to Create. So they're kind of leading, organisations that are kind of doing carrying out policy that's coming from the Department of Culture, So that meeting was, kind of a pivotal thing. And I guess it was a follow-up from the meeting with the Minister in September before. So that's say strand 3. And then there's just within ourselves, how we keep up with each other and each other's work, and how we support each other in either our work or in the campaign, and then there might be a 4th strand. Oh, probably the 4th strand is the European, kind of keeping an eye on what's going on in Europe and connecting with people there. So it's big. It's a big work.
Yes, there's a hell of a lot of work involved.
Chuva chovendo e conversa ribeira das águas de moça. É o fim da canseira, é o pé, é o chão, é a marcha estradeira. Passarinho na mão, pedra de atiradeira. Mave no céu, mave no chão. Uma gata, uma ponte, pedaço de pau. É o fundo do poço, é o fim do caminho. No rosto desgosto, é pouco sozinho. É o strap, é o prego, é uma poda, é pó. É uma pinha, pinhano, é uma conta, conta. É uma peixe, gesto, é a prata brilhando. É a luz da manhã, é o tijolo chegando. É a lenha, é o dia, é o fim da picada. É a garrafa de cama, é estilhaça na estrada. É o projeto da casa, um copo da cama. É um carro engraçado, é a lama, é a lama. É uma passa, uma ponte, é um sapo, uma rã. No resto do manto, na luz da manhã, são as águas de moço, fechando o verão. É promessa de vida no teu coração. É pau, é pedra, é o fim do caminho. Este de topo, pouco sozinho. É uma passa, uma ponte, é um sapo, uma rã. É um belo horizonte, uma febre a terça. São as águas de moço, fechando o verão. É promessa de vida no teu coração. É pau, é pedra, é o fim do caminho. Este de topo, pouco sozinho. É uma paz, uma ponte, é um sapo, uma rã. É um belo horizonte, uma febre a terça.
Will you tell me a bit about the Nighttime Economy Forum?
Yeah.
What it was and what it's all about?
Sure. Well, that was, I guess the other, we'll stick to this question. There was a forum in January, and I was invited, and Saoirse Smith, the comedian, who's also in DADA, she was invited and to speak. And it was important because, again, this was a forum to exchange ideas and to look at how our nighttime economy functions. And I guess we were coming from the point of view of how inclusive is it of disabled people, and how could it be more inclusive. So, I think it was really important that we were there and that we raised the issues as we did. I mean, there's so much that needs to be improved about our nighttime economy for disabled people. And one of the things that I said was that, again, if we had disabled people designing access and everything like that, then I think it would be better rather than, because we have more knowledge. But one thing would be if venues and places could be given something like a Michelin star according to how accessible they are, and having the highest star rating if you have disabled people actually working there, as well as programming disabled artists and having it fully accessible. So I propose that. So there's meant to be a follow-up for that, because the Nighttime Economy were at the meeting with disabled artists in June, and they did say that they were following up on the presentations made in January. So I guess watch this space.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned Evelyn Sink. Tell us a bit about her project.
Well, you see, she's a beautiful writer in Germany, and she has won a place on a master's program in Cork from, I think she got it in 2020. Anyway, she was due to start last year, and she couldn't, because literally she has a PA over in Germany, and she cannot get it transferred to here.
That's shocking.
All kinds. Yeah, so she literally, like, last September she couldn't take up the place. This September she can't take up the place. And apparently it's a course that cannot be done online. And as far as I understand, like, UCC have kind of done everything they can to try to help her come over. But it's literally, she needs a PA. And there seems to be just all kinds of barriers for her to either bring her German one over or to try and get in the system here. So as a result, she still hasn't come over. I mean, so it's like, it's a clear UNCRPD breach, but
There are many of them.
there are, aren't there?
Yes. And DADA got involved.
It's heartbreaking, really, for her. It's heartbreaking, really, because she's so passionate. She so wants to get going, and she's had her dreams just shattered.
Yeah.
2 years in a row.
And tell me this, DADA got involved in the Disability Pride Parade.
Oh yeah. Did indeed. That was brilliant. And that's definitely shout out to Disability Power Ireland, Power and Pride Ireland. And Mariam Madami is at the head of that. Attended. I went to the parade, and then DADA, we helped, because they were looking for an after party, and people within DPI expressed that they'd like to do karaoke, and there literally wasn't any accessible karaoke in Dublin. So I got on to, I previously worked in Ranelagh Arts, which is well supported by Dublin City Council, so I wrote them to see if they would support us having karaoke in an accessible centre. So they did. So we made that dream come true.
Brilliant.
So no, it was a great evening, and I mean, we're hoping to do more, and because in fairness, like, for that month of July, like, I did do an event with the National Gallery as part of their festival, and kind of a multi-sensory tour, but I was just too busy and too exhausted to get much more involved. So I was like, okay, we can help with running an accessible event and attending the parade, but that's all the steam.
I get you. And tell us a bit then about Karen Donlan's multi-sensory experience, which, having read it, is absolutely fabulous.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, just to say one more thing. I mean, that parade was really amazing. I do want to say that, like what DPI did to get, I mean, there was people from all over Ireland there, and a lot of young people, which was brilliant, because it kind of bodes well for the future and for change. I really feel like change is coming. It's so long overdue with disability, but I feel like there's going to be a critical mass, and sort of the system will have to change. So it was really, really exciting to see. We filled the street, and what was also exciting was, like, some passers-by just joined in, and they were like, "What's this for?" It was like, disability rights. They're like, "Oh, definitely." So it was just it was such a hopeful day, for the future. Karen, what's lovely about the thing with Karen is that she's, an independent artist, and she just came to me herself, because she had attended actually a multi-sensory tour that I did last year with Chronic Collective, which was kind of making art's place and the work accessible in many senses. And she loved it. And so when her work was awarded an exhibition in the RHA, she approached me and said, "Well, I really want this to be as accessible as possible." And she liked what I did last year. She's like, "I'd love to work on doing something like that with my work." So it was, because often it's sort of an institution that will approach and kind of have a certain very limited budget. Whereas this was really amazing for an artist. I mean, that like she has so much work to get her work to that stage. It's a big deal. But then to like personally take on herself, kind of that thing of like the personal responsibility that her work is accessible. That's a big deal. But that means that literally I made all the suggestions and she literally negotiated everything with the RHA, and they have been very supportive. But like Karen she's the powerhouse behind it. She really did it. It's next Thursday. This week. 27th. That's Wednesday at 1:00. What we've created is, so I've written a sort of quite poetic-y, almost performance audio description to her work. And then there will be tactile objects to hold and touch. And then again, for visually impaired, Karen is going to do some sound art. So if you are blind, you get the sound of the work, threaded through the audio description. And there's also going to be braille. And I think that's everything. So it's it's a really kind of I'm describing as kind of aesthetic access. It's not just it's kind of through an artistic lens. And that's next Thursday.
You left one thing out. Where is it on?
Oh, the RHA, the Royal Hibernian Academy. It's on Eli Place.
Very
so
good.
It is fully accessible, and actually her work is literally walk in the door and then it's to the right. So it's very easy to find.
Brilliant.
A flat, and the toilets are right there, so it's very easily accessible, which is nice.
Now, I'm not going to let you go without asking for a song.
Oh!
You don't have to give it to me, but I'm going to ask.
What's that? Sorry?
You don't have to sing one, but I'm going to ask.
Ask. Oh gosh, I wish I would have thought of that beforehand. I can send you one and you can play it. I'm not like Spotify. Will I do that?
Do that.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah, I'll send you my Spotify, then you can just pick one to play after.
Very good. So, we're coming right towards the end of the interview. Is there anything else you'd like to put out there? Any upcoming events or anything like that?
Well, I'm working with the Creative Europe Ireland desk on an EDI event that's coming up in November. So that's positive. I guess you see all these organisations are starting or are becoming more active in how they, considering what it really means to be inclusive, so that's good. I have a gig in, but it's not accessible. I have a gig in the Workman's on October 1st, and also in Arthur's on October 18th. And I'm planning myself to run one in Bewley's because that is accessible in December. We have a problem in music, particularly jazz, when it comes to accessible concerts. There seem to be all these crumbling staircase places,
Yeah. Well, look.
So that's something for the nighttime economy and the department and everything to think about.
Thank you so much for coming on. I wish you all the best in the future, and particularly with DADA.
Thank you very much.
And I hope at some stage accessibility is achieved.
I hope so too, John. Well, thanks very much, and thanks for your work here as well, what you do. And I think it's a lot about building community, and then we're really a force, So for change. That's good.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because the weather's so hot and I'm feeling so bad. Oh, bad day. Oh, I'm such a fool. He's just a guy who stopped to blow.